Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today, it is September 12th, 2023. It's on Tuesday, and it's cloudy or sunny outside. How are you spending Tuesday? Do you like Tuesday? How do you like Tuesday? Do you have a work or a school today? Or have you got a day off today? Or you have nothing today? When I was a university student, I started to get used to the rhythm of the week on Tuesday after spending Monday. And I was already counting down the week for the weekend. Saturdays and Sundays were day offs, so I was counting weekend. Did you do the same thing? One thing I can be honorable about myself was that I didn't sleep at class. Besides that, I couldn't sleep at the desk. One thing I can be honorable about myself is that I didn't sleep at class at all because I couldn't sleep at the desk. There were some times, especially after lunch, when I felt drowsiness, but I couldn't sleep at all, so I was listening to the lecture carefully, trying to focus on the lecture, trying to concentrate on the lecture. But it was very tough frequently, especially after eating lunch, because the energy was spent for digesting what I ate. But I sometimes relied on a cup of coffee after lunch. It helped. It helped. I didn't stop by a post office yesterday. I didn't drop by a post office yesterday. I didn't drop in at a supermarket yesterday because I had enough food and drinks at home. I didn't stop by a convenience store yesterday. I didn't drop by a convenience store yesterday because I still have enough food and drinks in the fridge. Do you remember what you ate yesterday? Do you remember what you ate last night? Do you remember what you ate last week? Do you remember what you ate this day last week, last Tuesday? Do you remember what you ate last Tuesday for lunch or dinner? I went to the beach twice last month. Did you go to a beach last month? Did you go to a beach last month? Did you go swimming last month? I didn't have the opportunity to go swimming last year. So I was happy to be able to go to the beach this month, this year, this summer. I didn't go to the beach last year. I didn't have the opportunity to go swimming last year. So I was happy. I am glad to be able to go swimming this year. There were some prophecies before 2000. There were some prophecies that the utility might stop due to the change of the number from 1999 to 2000. Because according to the information, changing all of the phone numbers hadn't been done for a long time in the computer. So the computer might have gone wrong by changing of the year from 1999 to the 2000. But fortunately, nothing happened. Fiscal year usually starts on April 1st in Japan. Fiscal year usually starts from April 1st in Japan. Fiscal year started on April 1st this year too. I went to the cafe a few days ago. I went to the cafe last weekend. I went to the cafe last weekend, a few days ago. I dropped by the supermarket 3 days ago. I stopped by the supermarket 3 days ago. I dropped by the supermarket 3 days ago. I dropped in at the supermarket 3 days ago. When I was a kid, I would often play video games. I put the most importance on playing video games and gather as many video games as possible. I really regret it now. When I was a kid, I put the most importance on playing video games and buying new video games, which I really regret. which I really regret. Can I see the pictures when you were a student? I'm so curious of how you looked before. May I see the pictures when you were a university student? I'm curious of how you looked differently from now. When did you graduate from university? When did you graduate from university? When did you graduate from university? When I arrived at the fair, it had already finished. It had already finished. So next time I go to the fair, I will have to leave my house much earlier. When we arrived at the morning fair, it had already finished. So next time we go there, we should leave our house much earlier, in time for the fair. As you can see from the name, it is held in the morning, but we arrived at noon, so it had already finished. It had already finished. It had already finished. The train had already gone, so I killed my time in the platform, listening to music and so on. Unfortunately, the next train came in 15 minutes because it is a huge station in the middle of the urban city, so train came frequently. When I arrived at platform, the subway train had already gone, but it was okay because the train comes every 4 minutes, so it was not such a big deal for me. When I arrived at the station, the train had already gone, but it was not such a big damage to me because the train comes every 4 minutes. The next train came soon. It was not long before the next train came. It was not long before the next train came. It was not very long before the next train came. It wasn't very long before the next train came. It wasn't very long before the next train came. When I got in touch with my coworker, he had already fallen asleep. When I noticed emergency and called my coworker, he had already fallen asleep. It's no wonder, because it was in the midnight. When I arrived at the train station, the train had already gone. When I arrived at the video game shop, the very popular one had already been sold out in no time. When I was at the hospital, My family doctor had already been ready to see my condition. When I arrived at the venue, the facility had not been opened yet. I arrived at there super earlier. When I arrived at the venue, it had not been open yet. When I arrived at the venue, it had not been open yet. It had not been open. It hadn't been open yet. Although we attempted to arrive at the post office on time, it had already closed when we arrived there. I rushed to the post office only to find it closed. I rushed to the post office only to find it closed. Although we rushed to the post office, when we arrived, by the time we arrived at the post office, it had already closed. It had already closed. By the time I got home, the TV drama had already finished. By the time I arrived at home, the TV drama had already started. By the time we arrived at the cinema, the movie had already started. By the time we arrived at the cinema, the beginning of the movie had already started. So we missed the beginning of the movie. Keeping pace with the programming class was such tough for me, as I hadn't used the computer yet before. Keeping up with the programming C class was such a tough for me, as I hadn't used the computer before. Since I hadn't used the computer before, keeping pace with the programming C class was such a tough. Keeping pace with the programming C class was such a tough for me, because I hadn't used the computer yet, so everything was new to me. I tapped the keyboard so slowly as turtle moving. I guided my friends around the city, as I had been there more than 10 times. I guided my friends around the city, as I had been there more than 10 times. I was familiar with the geography, where the shops are located, and so on. From the lessons I had learned, I was not deceived by the same scamming. I was not deceived the similar scammings from the lessons I had learned before. I was not deceived by the similar scammings and frauds from the lessons I had learned. I could give some advice to my friends about climbing Mount Fuji, as I had climbed the Mount Fuji once. I gave some information and advice to my friends about climbing the mountain, as I had climbed the mountain once. I gave some information and tips for climbing the mountain to my friends, as I had climbed once. I had watched the movie twice. I could understand the line better this time. Since I had watched the movie 3 times, I could watch the movie and understand the line better this time. I could arrive at the hotel smoothly, as I had been the country as a foreign trip more than 4 times. So I was like a veteran. The neighbor felt something wrong to the guy who had been working on the same route at the same time. The neighbor felt something strange to the guy because he didn't show up. He had been working on the same route at the same time. It was not such a fear to go abroad when I was asked to go abroad on business trip, as I had been foreign countries sometimes ever before. When I was asked to go abroad for a business trip, it was not such a fear, as I had been to some foreign countries before. The neighbors felt something strange to the person who used to walk the same distance at the same time every day. They couldn't find him. The neighbors felt something strange to the person who had been walking the same distance at the same time every day, because they couldn't find him. The neighbors felt something strange and wrong to the person, as they couldn't find him. He had been walking the same distance at the same time every day. I could smoothly reach my hotel from the airport, as I had been to the country more than 5 times. I could reach my hotel smoothly from the international airport, as I had been to the country more than 5 times. I could understand the line of the movie better because I had watched the movie more than 10 times. I was tired of watching the movie this time, as I had watched it more than 10 times. I had enough of watching the movie, as I had watched it more than 10 times. I was fed up with watching the movie again, as I had watched it more than 10 times. I had been kept waiting for about 30 minutes when he finally showed up, when he finally turned up. I had waited for him for about 25 minutes. He finally showed up. He finally turned up. The student had been studying until he was stopped by his teacher. I often had been playing video games until I was stopped by my parents. I had often been playing video games. I had been frequently playing video games until I was stopped. I had been frequently working on something until I broke my health. I was often told my doctor not to do much. I had been frequently working on something until I broke my health. I had been frequently working on something until I broke my health, which is not good at all. I was frequently advised from my doctor and teacher not to do too much and take a break regularly. I cannot imagine. I had waited for about 3 hours before I could enjoy the attraction in the amusement park about 10 years ago. I cannot do that now. So when I reminisce over those days, I tremble with the crazy challenges. I had waited for about 3 hours when we finally could enjoy the attraction at the amusement park. We had waited for about three hours when we finally could enjoy the attraction in the amusement park, though the attraction was only for 7 minutes or shorter. The vacant house had been used for nothing until they were reconstructed for another purpose. The vacant house had been used for nothing until it was reformed into a cafe. The vacant old house had not been used for a long time until it was reformed into a cafe. The old house hadn't been used until it was remodeled into a guest house. The vacant old house had not been used for a long time until it was reconstructed into a cafe. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was reconstructed into a guest house, which is very popular now, with unique traditional design, good scenery on the hill, and so on. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was demolished and reconstructed for cafe. The old house had not been used for a long time until it was transformed into a guest house. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was turned into a cafe. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was reconstructed into a guest house, which is very popular now, with good scenery, traditional design, and so on. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was turned into a guest house. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was transformed into a guest house. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was converted into a guest house. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was converted into a guest house. The old house hadn't been used for a long time until it was changed to a guest house. Only a handful executive members had already known which name was used for the new era before it was announced to the public. Only a few executive members and some members related had known the new name of the era before it was announced to the public. The result of the match had already been obvious, evident, clear-cut before the match started, because the power gap between the champion and the challenger was obvious, evident, clear-cut, two big difference. The result of the match had been almost obvious before the match started. The result of the match between the challenger and the champion had been almost clear cut, evident, obvious before the match started. The decision and measures on the problems had already been decided in the informal meeting before the official meeting was held. The measures on the problems had already been decided in the informal meeting before the official meeting was held. The YouTuber had already moved to a new apartment before he uploaded the video. The YouTuber had already finished moving before he uploaded the video about the moving. The YouTuber had already moved to a new apartment before he mentioned the moving. The YouTuber had already finished moving to a new apartment before he uploaded a video about mentioning his moving. The YouTuber had already finished moving to a new apartment before he uploaded a video mentioning his moving. When I came my hometown, the scenery had already been different. Many buildings had already been built. When I came my hometown, I couldn't realize how I was surprised at the difference, as many buildings, shops, roads had already been built, constructed, established. When I came hometown, I was surprised at the totally different scenery, as buildings, roads, shops had already been built before I knew. I think many people make a resolution to achieve something on New Year's, but I think only a handful of people of them will keep doing until they achieve their goals till the end. I think many people will make a resolution to achieve something great on New Year's, but I assume, think, predict, bet that only a handful of them will keep doing until they achieve their goals. What did you make a resolution? What did you make a resolution this year? What did you make a resolution to achieve this new year? What did you make a resolution to achieve this year? Did you make a resolution to achieve something on this year, on this new year? Did you make a resolution to achieve something? Did you make a resolution to achieve something on New Year? Yes, when we on New Year holidays, we tend to feel very clean in our mind, and feel like making a resolution to achieve something great. But the more the time passes, the less the motivation will be. So it can be difficult to achieve a goal until we, yes, it can be very difficult to achieve a goal. It can be very difficult to keep the motivation. Have you climbed Mount Fuji? I highly recommend you see the breathtaking view from the summit. It cannot be described by words, pictures, and so on. I would like you to see. Uh, When I was in Hawaii, I spent the precious time as possible as I could. When I was in Hawaii, I spent the time as preciously as I could. By the time I arrived at the stadium, the game had already started. By the time I got home, the TV program had already finished. By the time I arrived at the morning fair, most of the stands or stalls had been closed. By the time I arrived at the morning fair, most of the shops had closed. By the time I arrived at the morning fair, most of the shops had already closed. I should have gone there earlier. I noticed that nobody had been like me. I noticed at some point in my life that nobody had been like me, ever. I found that nobody had been like me. I found that my family would be the last people who betray me. I find that families would be the last people who betray us. I find that nothing is as important as health. I find that nothing is more important than health. I find that no other things are as important as health. I find that health is more important than any other thing. We found that the fire had been caused by spontaneously. We found that the fire of the temple had been ignited spontaneously. The investigator found that the fire on the temple had been ignited by a person captured in the camera. The new findings unearthed from the soil and land find that a culture flourished in the region. The recently unearthed potteries and some other cutleries find that there was a culture flourished in the region before in the past. I find that people might betray us, but study does not betray us. I find that people might betray me, but study will not betray me. I find that people might betray me in the future, but study will not betray me. I find that people betrayed me and will betray me in the future, but study did not betray me and will not betray me in the future. Through many experiences in some different environments in workplaces, I find that being in a group is not suitable for me. Through some experiences in some working places, I found that being in a group is not suited for me. I found that being in a group or working as a member of a group is not suited for me. Through some experiences in workplaces, I found that I don't feel comfortable in a group through some experiences in workplaces. I found that most of the people proceed to the same direction like programmed robots. I found that most of the people out there move to the same direction like programmed robots. If something happens, everybody, not everybody, but most of the people will turn the smartphone to the events and take records, like programmed robots. I found that most of the people do the same things, move to the same direction, like programmed robots. If something happened, they will turn their smartphones to the event and make videos or take a picture, like programmed robots. I found that I am really interested in studying English. I found that I am really interested in English music. I found that I am really interested in English. There are some factors, evidences to show my interest in English. First is the length of my study. I never stopped studying. I've been studying English for a long time, for more than 10 years, even after the graduation. Whenever we get stuck in something, in the first place, we should calm down, we should chill out. Whenever we get stuck in a problem, the first thing we should do is to calm down, chill out, chill out. It's worse to get into a traffic jam. I don't wanna get stuck. I don't know. I don't wanna get stuck in traffic jam. I don't wanna get in this traffic jam. I don't wanna get stuck in traffic jam. I don't wanna be stuck in a traffic jam. Many cars were observed stuck in the traffic jam. Many cars were observed stuck in the mud, hydrated mud, after the torrential rain in the desert. Many cars were found stranded in the watered sand after the torrential rain. Many cars were observed stuck in the flooding after the heavy rain, sudden heavy rain, torrential rain. 2 tires got stuck in the hole, and we called the rescuers to help us. 2 tires of the car got stuck in the hole. 2 tires of the 4 tires of the car got stuck in the sand, and we couldn't go out, so we called the rescuer to help us. Four of the tires of the car got stuck in the wet sand, and we couldn't get out, so we called the rescuer to help us. Hmm. Whenever we get stuck in a problem, the first thing we should do is to chill out and calm down and take a measure. Whenever we get stuck in the problem, the first thing we should do is to chill out and calm down. Whenever we get stuck in a problem, the first thing we should do is to chill out, calm down. We are to get stuck in a trouble at some point in our life, but we can get it over and grow. Life is to face difficulties and get them over endlessly. Life is supposed to get over difficulties. We face difficulties in the course of our life. Life is supposed to get stuck in troubles to get over at some point in our life, in the course of our life. Life may be supposed to get over difficulties waiting for us in the future or now. Life is supposed to be confronted with difficulties to get over. Life may be supposed to get over difficulties. We are supposed to be stuck in troubles to get over. We are supposed to face with difficulties, predicaments, chaos, mayhem to get over in the future or now. We are supposed to be faced with difficulties in the course of our life, but we can get them over to grow. We are supposed to be stuck in a trouble at some point in our life. We are supposed to be stuck in troubles in the course of our life. And we are supposed to be stuck in a trouble in the course of our life. And we are to be stuck in a problem in the course of our life, in the process of our life. And we get them over, we overcome them, and we conquer them to grow. We are supposed to get stuck in no trouble in the course of our life, in the process of our life, at some point in our life. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will get stuck in a trouble. We will be 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 stuck in a trouble at some point in our life, or you are already facing it. We will be stuck in a trouble. We will be stuck in a problem. We will get stuck in a trouble. 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 We will get stuck in a problem in the course of our life, in the process of our life. The first, whenever we get stuck in a trouble, the first thing we should do is to chill out. Chill out, chill out, chill out, chill out, chill out, calm down, chill out, calm down, chill out, calm down. The first thing we should do is to chill out. The first thing we should do after something problem happens is to chill out, calm down. The first thing we should do soon after something happens, we should chill out. The first thing we should do is to chill out when something happens, when something bad comes about. Chill out. Chill out. What are you yelling for? Chill out. Chill out. Chill out. Chill out. When I was an elementary school student, I used to take a shortcut between my house to the school to make the distance shorter as possible because commuting itself was super tough for me. When I was an elementary school student, I used to take a shortcut from to my school to save my energy as possible as I could because commuting itself was super tough. It was the same as physical education. When I was an elementary school student, I used to go to school on foot, so I used to take a shortcut by taking narrow path, sand path, and so on. When I was an elementary school student, primary school student, I used to take a shortcut from to my school to save my energy as possible as I could. I used to take a shortcut from to my school to make the distance as short as possible. Because commuting on foot instead was super tough for me. If I had been familiar with the geography in the place, I would have taken a shortcut because I didn't know the geography at all. It was my first visit to the prefecture, so I followed the route. We were stuck in a traffic jam, but we couldn't help it. So we just waited in the traffic jam and arrived at the destination following the exact route as the car navigation indicated. if I had been familiar with the geography in the region, I would have taken a shortcut, but it was my first visit to the prefecture, so I didn't know. I was not familiar with, so I didn't know where to go for the shortcut. We just followed the car navigation as the car navigation indicated. Although we took a shortcut, it took longer time for us to reach the destination because we got into a traffic jam again. We were stuck in a traffic jam. We got stuck in a traffic jam. Have you got a flat tire? No, I haven't, so I don't know what to do if I got a flat tire. What can I do if I got a flat tire, especially in the middle of the mountain? Shall I call the car repair shop to bring the spare tire, or should I call my friends or relatives to call the spare tire? What can I do if I got a flat tire? Do you have any good idea? What the steps I should take when I get a flat tire? What are the steps I should take? What are the measures and steps I should take if I get a flat tire on the road or everywhere else? I don't have a I don't want to get a flat tire, so I got all of the four tires. I changed to a new tires before my trip. Since I didn't want to get a flat tire, I have all of the four tires changed to new ones. Because I didn't want to have a flat tire on the long journey, I had all of four tires fixed, changed to the new ones before we departed. Because we didn't want to have a flat tire, and we had all of the four tires. We had all of the four tires changed to new ones before we departed for our journey. Because we didn't want to have a flat tire on the long journey, and we had all of the four tires changed to new ones because they were old and they had been worn out enough to be changed. Because we didn't want to have a flat tire, we had all of the four tires changed to new ones before we departed for our destination. Have you got a flat tire? Have you got a flat tire? Have you got a flat tire? I saw a car driving with a flat tire, emitting noisy sound, which was very terrible. I saw a car driving with flat tire, giving off strange sound, which was disgusting. I saw a car driving with flat tire on the road in Tokyo. I saw a car driving with flat tire, emitting noisy sound. I found that nobody gave me a helping hand. Many people volunteered to give a helping hand to the refugees. Many people were willing to give a helping hand to the refugees after broadcasting the documentary. Many people were willing to give a helping hand to the refugees after broadcasting the documentary program. After the documentary program had been broadcasted on TV, many people volunteered to lend a helping hand to the refugees. After the documentary program had been broadcasted on TV, many people offered to give a helping hand to the refugees. Give me a hand. Give me a hand. Lend me a hand. Could you give me a hand to set up the tables? Would you mind giving me a hand? Would you mind giving me a hand and help me set up the tables? Would you mind giving me a help? Giving me a hand and help me arrange the tables for dinner party tonight? Would you mind giving us a hand and help us to set up the tables for dinner party? Could you give me a hand? Would you giving me a hand? Would you giving me a hand? Would you giving me a hand? Would you lending me a hand? Lending me a hand? Would you lending me a hand? Would you mind lending me a hand? Would you mind giving me a hand? Giving us a hand? Would you mind lending us a hand? Would you mind lending me 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 a hand? Would you mind giving me a hand? Would you mind giving me a hand? Would you mind lending 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 me a hand? Would you mind giving me a hand? Would you mind lending 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 me a hand and help me to set up the tables? Would you mind lending me a hand and help me to finish the homework? Would you mind helping me a hand? Would you mind giving me a hand and help me to finish my task? Would you mind giving me a hand and help me to hold the digital camera for the shooting? I'd be glad to, I'd be glad to, I'd be glad to, I'd be happy to, I'd be pleased to. I'd be glad to, I'd be happy to, I'd be pleased to. I'd be happy to, I'd be pleased to. I'd be happy to, I'd be glad to, I'd be glad to. What do you say to participate in the party tonight? I'd be glad to, I'd be glad to go. I'd be glad to participate. What do you say to joining a party tonight? I'd be glad to. What do you say to going to karaoke tonight after work? I'd be glad to. 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 Why don't we go to the karaoke party tonight after work? I'd be glad to. Why don't we have Monzeki in Tokyo tonight? I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to. Why don't we go on a trip to Hokkaido next weekend? I'd be glad to. Let's go to Hokkaido, shall we? I'd be glad to. 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 I'd be happy to. I'd be pleased to. Let's go to Okinawa, shall we? I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to. Why don't we go to Hot Spring Resort for relaxing for a change? I'd be glad to. Why don't we go to the onsen resort area for a change? I'd be glad to. The siren of the ambulance looked different between when we approached and when we went further. The ambulance siren sounded different between when we were approaching and we were going away from the ambulance. I learned about the phenomenon at the physics class, but I forgot everything. The ambulance siren sounded different between when we were approaching and when we were going away. I learned that we have to make a space for ambulance when we come across it. When we run into an ambulance. Whenever we come across an ambulance, we have to make space so that they can pass. Whenever we come across an ambulance, we have to make the space so that the ambulance can go. Whenever we come across an ambulance, we have to make space enough for the ambulance to be able to pass. Whenever we come across an ambulance, we have to make space in order that the ambulance can go. Whenever we come across an ambulance, we learn that we have to make a space enough for the ambulance to go through. Whenever we run into an ambulance, we have to make space so that the ambulance can go through. As soon as I drink alcoholic beverage, I go red. On drinking alcoholic beverage, I go red. On drinking an alcoholic beverage, I go red, not bread. If I became a bread, it would be awesome. It's like magic. The instant I drink alcoholic beverage, I go red. The moment I drink an alcoholic beverage, I go red. The instant I drink an alcoholic beverage, I go red. If operate the machine at this rate without maintenance, proper maintenance, adequate maintenance, it will go bad immediately. And some people can go out of control once they drink alcoholic beverage. Some people can go out of control once they drink alcoholic beverage. Nobody wanna go for a drink with them. Some people go out of control once they drink alcoholic beverage, and nobody wanna go for a drink with them. Out of control, out of control. The machine sometimes go out of control. The machine sometimes go out of control and needs fixing. Out of control, out of control. Out of control, out of control, out of control, out of control, out of control. Some people go out of control as soon as they drink alcoholic beverage. Some people go out of control the instant they drink alcoholic beverage. Some people can go out of control on drinking alcoholic beverage. I frequently came close to vomiting on the ferry ride, but I withstood. I endured. I put up with it. I bared. I frequently came close to throwing up on the ferry ride, but I withstood. It was only 1 hour ride from between the islands, between the remote islands. I should have taken the medicine for motion sick, but it was my first trip, so I didn't know. I didn't know that the ship shook so much. It was my first trip, so I didn't know the ship shook so much. It was like an attraction, the attraction in the shape of ship and swing, like a swing. Do you know the attraction in the shape of the ship and swung on the ride? My ship experience was the same as it. While I was watching the comedy show, I frequently came close to spitting out the milk. So it's super dangerous to drink something while I'm watching comedy show. While I was watching a comedy show on videos, I frequently came close to spitting out drinks, but I withstood. While I was watching a comedy show, I frequently came close to spitting out a drink. Spitting out drink. I frequently came close to spitting out drink while I was watching the comedy show. It was so fun, so funny. The car came close to running over a pet bottle left on the road, but the driver escaped it. The car came close to running over the pet bottle left on the road, but the driver escaped it with his technique. The car came close to running over the can left on the road, but he escaped it. The car came close to running over the pet bottle left on the road. The car came close to running over the can left on the road. The car came close to running over the can left on the road. The car came close to running over the pet bottle left on the road. The car came close to running over the pet bottle left on the road. The car came close to running over the pet bottle left on the road. The car came close to running over the deer. The car with tourists came close to colliding with wild deer, but they could stop before they crashed. The rented car with tourists came close to colliding with wild deer in the middle of the mountain, but they could stop before they crashed. The rented car with four tourists came close to crashing into the wild deer on the road. Suddenly emerged from the bush. The car almost hit the wild deer, suddenly emerging from the bush. The car came close to crashing into the wild deer, suddenly emerging from the bush. The job interviewee came close to emitting slang words as he used such slang words in a daily use. The job interviewee came close to give off the disrespectful words, but he stopped. The job interviewee came close to giving off slang words. Some experts contend that there might be possibility that the earthquake will happen within 30 years. Some experts contend that the big earthquake will come about within 30 years in the region. Some experts contend that the big earthquake will come about within 30 years in the district. But there is also the possibility that a big earthquake will not happen. The kit contends that he had not to do with the accident. The kit contends that he was not to do with the accident. The kit contends that he had nothing to do with the accident. The kit contends that he had nothing to do with the incident. The kit contends that he has nothing to do with he has nothing to do with the accident. He contends that he was late for school due to emergency. The student contends that he was late for school because of the train was delayed. The student contended that the train had been delayed as a reason and excuse why he was late for school. The student contends that he was late for school due to the delayed train. The lady contends that she saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The lady contends that she saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The lady insists that she saw an unidentified flying object (UFO) in the sky. The lady contends that she saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The boy contends that he saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The boy contends that he saw an unidentified flying object (UFO) in the sky. The kid contends that he saw a ghost in the forest. The kid contends that he saw a ghost in the forest when he was alone. The kid contends that he saw a ghost in the forest. The kid insists that he saw a ghost in the forest. The kid contends that he saw a ghost in the forest. The kid contends that he saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The kid contends that he saw an unidentified object. The kid contends that he saw an flying object. The kid contends that he saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The kid contends that he saw an unidentified flying object in the sky. The kit contends that he saw an unidentified flying object, an unidentified flying object, an unidentified flying object, unidentified flying object. The kit contends that he saw an unidentified flying object. Some people contend that drastic measures are needed in the education system. Some people contend that educational measures must be done immediately. And some people contend that drastic measures should be done in the educational system. Some people contend that drastic measures should be done in the educational system. Some experts contend that higher tax should be postponed, considering the recent recession. Some experts contend that higher tax should be postponed or abolished. Some experts and specialists contend that higher tax should be put off or abolished. Some experts contend that higher tax should be avoided. Higher tax should be postponed or abolished, done away with. Some experts contend that higher tax should be done away with or postponed. Some experts contend that higher tax should be either done away with or postponed, considering the recent recession. Some experts contend that higher tax should be either done away with or postponed. Some experts contend that higher tax should be abolished or postponed. The accused contends that he has nothing to do with the incident. The defendant contends that he has nothing to do with the incident. The accused contends that he has nothing to do with the incident. The accused contends that he has nothing to do with the incident. The accused contends that he has nothing to do with the incident. The accused contends that he has nothing to do with the incident. The plaintiff contends that the accused had a lot to do with the incident. The plaintiff contends that the accused has a lot to do with the incident. The plaintiff contends that the accused has a lot to do with the incident. In this information technology era, we still sometimes rely on primitive way. For example, when I wash my precious clothes, I wash in the sink, not in the washing machine. Or we enjoy having a camp with primitive methods when we ignite fire and so on. In this information technology era, we sometimes enjoy using primitive ways such as making fire, cooking rice, and so on. Do you think primitive life still exists in the planets other than the Earth? Some experts contend that primitive life will exist in planets other than the Earth. Some experts contend that there are some primitive lives somewhere in the universe other than the Earth. Do you think primitive life once existed on the moon? Do you think primitive life once existed on the moon? Do you think another life formation exists other than the Earth? Do you think life formation exists in other planets other than the Earth in the universe? Do you think other life formations exist in other planets in the universe other than the Earth? Primitive life, primitive life, primitive life, primitive life. Do you presume that primitive life once existed on other planets other than the Earth? Do you think primitive life once existed other than the Earth in other planets? Do you think primitive lives or once existed in other planets other than the Earth? Two crews were dispatched, allocated, deployed in the tour in the bus. Two crews were allocated in the bus to make sure the safety and to make the customers fun with more activities inside. Two crews were allocated in the bus. Two crews were allocated in the bus. I asked a question to the crew about how to get to the hotel from the international airport. To the crew's very hospitality, she told me everything kindly. I asked the crew how to get to the hotel from the international airport. She told me very kindly. 500 passengers and 15 crews were said to have been in the plane, according to the information. 500 passengers and 15 crews were in the plane, according to the information. It's not sure if there was a Japanese person on board. 500 passengers and 15 crews were said to have been in the cabin. My parents are always busy working. My parents are always busy working. I enjoy. I usually spend my time studying on weekends. I usually spend my time studying. I usually spend my weekends working around the tourist spots. We spend our weekends walking around the tourist spots. The voyage to the ocean would be the last one for me to do because I easy to get motion sick. The voyage into the ocean would be the last trip for me to go because I easy to get motion sick. So I'd like to escape taking the ferry or ship as possible as I can. I prefer to go with trains. Yes. Well, I also don't like to go with bus. Bus shake also makes me feel weird. Bus shake also makes me feel weird. Bus shake also makes me feel vomiting, throwing up, and so on. Do you have the interest in voyage? Do you have the interest in voyage with fancy cruise ship? Do you have the interest in voyage with fancy cruise ship, as big as apartment, as big as mansion, as big as a shopping mall? Are you interested in the voyage with such a huge cruise ship, as big as shopping mall? Are you interested in the voyage with such a big cruise ship, as big as a shopping mall? Are you interested in the voyage with as big ship as a shopping mall? Are you interested in the voyage with as big ship as a shopping mall? Are you interested in a voyage with as big ship as apartment or shopping mall? Are you interested in the voyage with as big a ship as a shopping mall? Voyage, 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 voyage into outer space, voyage into outer space. Do you think the price for the voyage into outer space will be much cheaper in the near future? How much can you pay for the voyage into outer space? How much can you pay for the voyage into outer space? How much can you pay for the voyage into outer space? Do you think the price for the voyage into outer space will be much cheaper in the future? As cheap as international trip, maybe 200,000 yen both way. If so, maybe many people will apply for the voyage into the outer space. But as of now, it's super expensive. Voyage into outer space is very dreamy. Voyage into outer space sounds very dreamy, but it's far away from my reality. Voyage into outer space is far from my reality. Voyage into outer space is far from real for me. Voyage into outer space is far from reality for me. Outer space, the universe, outer space, outer space, outer space. The space shuttle was launched into the outer space. Voyage into outer space, outer space, outer space, outer space. I sometimes watch astronauts training in water as preparation for having a life in the universe. I wonder how the life it would be to live in the outer space under zero gravity. I don't know the difference between the situation in zero gravity in the universe and the situation in water. It must be very different, but similar. That's why some astronauts are trained in water before going to the space, outer space. I like the experiments of water by astronauts in the universe. For example, the water being eaten by astronauts. The water becomes like a ball in the universe and the astronaut eats the ball of water. It sounds dreamy and fun. I like the experiments conducted in the universe, in the outer space, actually in the space station, I think. I like the series of experiments conducted in the space shuttle, space station by some astronauts, which are very interesting. The physical phenomenon react differently in the universe than the ones on the Earth. Yeah. The physical phenomena react differently in the universe, which is very interesting. I like the experiments conducted in the universe by the astronauts under zero gravity, under zero gravity, everything will be 0 kilogram in the universe under zero gravity, of course. Everything will be 0 kilogram under zero gravity in the universe. Zero gravity, under zero gravity. I like the experiments conducted in the under zero gravity in the universe. I especially like the bowl of water eaten by the astronaut. I'd like to do that if I have the chance to go to the universe. I'd like to eat a bowl of water like the astronauts did. Astronaut. Astronomer. Astronaut. 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 Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you!